away we go. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever in the world you happen to be right now. Welcome one and all to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what is going on in the world today, talking about the news, sharing a little bit of dialogue with those of you who were able to join us for the live portion. And naturally, if you're listening somewhere else and you would like to join the live portion, you can find us Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Coffee Talk and on Prepper University on YouTube, and that's at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can also find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat and fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. And naturally, I do try to read through as many comments as is reasonable. So I'll say hello to some of the people that have been able to jump in so far. I see that Helter is here this morning, or this afternoon. It's afternoon where I am. It might be morning where you are. Dragon is here. Kimberly is here, saying hello thus far. Cyberjack Sr. is here. And we'll see who else rolls in, or whoever else wants to say hello, because sometimes people are there and they just don't want to comment, and that's fine. That's fine. Glad they're able to join us anyways. Maybe they're getting something out of it, and that's the whole point. That is the whole point. As I snarkily and sarcastically dig my way through the media and look at the news stories that they try to force feed us. And I see Chillin' Dave's here. And we're going to jump off with something I should have talked about yesterday. And it just didn't click with me because I didn't even notice, because that's how unimportant it is. Okay? This is so unimportant. Went right over my head yesterday as I'm sitting there wondering where the hell my mail is. And I see Raccoon has joined us. For those of you who weren't aware, because you don't work for the federal government and you had to do a normal job, yesterday was Columbus Day. Columbus Day. But you can't call it that anymore because Columbus equals bad. Nature Nerd says Boeing is flying in out-of-state workers from Texas and South Carolina to do union jobs and continue to deliver planes. Oh, well. So much for that strike. Fluke Man is here, as well as Monkey. Glad you guys could join us today. But apparently, it's not Columbus Day anymore, but it's still a federal holiday. And people who work for the federal government, like the post office, still get that day off. JJ is here, as well as Country Livin'. Thanks for dropping in. Uh-oh. And I have a Monkey. Hello, Monkey. What are you doing, buddy? Monkey is on the table. You can't see him yet. Maybe he'll get into frame. So Fox News article, Harris doubles down with Indigenous Peoples Day post amid outrage over Columbus Day rhetoric. And there she is, pretending to identify with people. And then she's got the deaf person, and, in case any deaf Indigenous people are watching the broadcast and for some reason cannot read the closed captioning. Once again, that's why that's there. So I don't know why politicians always want to pretend like they give a crap about deaf people by having a sign language interpreter in a box when there's closed captioning on the screen. You see, before closed captioning, you used to have a sign language interpreter. And they used to have a great sketch making fun of that on Saturday Night Live in the 70s when the show was still funny. And Plasma Burn says Columbus is the only immigrant the left despises. Yeah, there you go. And Drubal has joined us. Who remembers that old sketch? Oh, what was his name? The name of the guy who used to do it from Saturday Night Live, the first couple of seasons. And his bit was, for the deaf people, he would scream and shout exactly whatever the other person said. That was classic. Chillin says SNL news for the hard of hearing screams. There you go. That's it. But anyway, back to the point. Vice President Kamala Harris doubled down on her recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day amid outrage on social media over her unearthed support of renaming Columbus Day. This Indigenous Peoples Day, I am thinking about the young Indigenous leaders I met in Arizona last week. I don't know if she met anybody. And if she did, they were activists. And activists, their job is to pretend to be outraged. I will remind you. Harris posted to her campaign X account late Monday afternoon. The post comes as videos of Harris from 2019 and 2021 have spread like wildfire across social media platforms, spotlighting Harris's previous comments supporting the renaming of Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day and admonishing European explorers for unleashing a wave of devastation for tribal nations when they reached the Americas in the late 1400s. Never mind the fact that the reason that the conquistadors wanted to sweep through South America in the first place was because of the immense levels of human sacrifice that they could not even fathom when they arrived. I mean, they were shocked, and they were butchers themselves. How do you sacrifice 1,000 people a day for months on end? Makes no sense. As we catch up here real quick, Raccoon says she's such a joke. I saw the clip of her stupid speech. She hates America. What a disgrace. I know. And Dragon says she alienated more people with that than she won over. And Helter says if Columbus were alive today, I bet Biden and Harris would celebrate him for being an illegal. Yeah, well. And I had forgotten all about that. I was like, Columbus Day? Is it? Is it Columbus Day? Whatever. And, you want to... this is part of the problem in the modern world is an inability to visualize life and social structure of the time period that Columbus even came from. Not condoning Columbus or the actions of the conquistadors, but technically understanding it. People can't do that, and they can't let history be history. They can't just let it go. Chillin says it was Garrett Morris. That's correct. Garrett Morris used to do that bit with Saturday Night Live. Hasdrubal says, what was her grandpa up to in the Caribbean again? Excellent question. And there's All People. Says if Kamala's going to now become a pretendian, she pretended to have black bloodlines despite her dad being an Indo-Jamaican. Yeah, she's a pretendian. There you go. She's in the Slapaho tribe. Monkey says, plus Indians weren't all peaceful. No, not at all. And welcoming like what the left wants you to think. They did the same shit every human race has done at some point in history. Some of the races or some of the groups, and Brian is here. Glad you could make it. It's important to understand that if we're being honest about the way that things went, even in North America with the native tribes, there was more than 5,000 tribes in North America, but a tribe could be as few as 25 people. Okay, because people are like, "Oh, that's so many." Yeah, but you're talking tribal groups. They're small family groups. Some of them got along. A lot of them didn't, and they were incredibly brutal with each other. And this is a part of history that's just glazed over. Fluke Man said some right wings say Columbus was a good man, respected natives, and helped to end native human sacrifices, while the left says Columbus was the complete opposite. Which do you think is accurate? I think he could be pretty brutal. What you have to do, go online and look for his diary. Look for his ship's logs or his diaries. I forget which one it was, but he had some pretty aggressive accounts of how he managed things to make way for the Spaniards to come to the New World. But in his mind, he was doing his job. This is what they sent me here for. Not condoning it again, but it was a different world back then. It was a much different world than what we know now. Nature Nerd says the Caribbean and South America hate Columbus. And JJ says they would have forgotten that it was Columbus Day if it wasn't for the left getting their tuck-friendly underwear in a wad over it. Youch! And one more here. Plasma burns. Candace Owens has exposed Kamala's family tree using slave labor as her family to be black. To be black. I haven't seen much out of Candace Owens in a while. I've watched her before, but not that often. Not that often. But while we're on the subject of Kamala Harris, I found this article to be rather interesting. Not that it will make the damnedest bit of difference. New York Post article coming up. Kamala Harris accused of plagiarism in a co-authored book in 2009 on criminal reform. No surprise. No surprise. Let me wrap this one up. Chillin' Dave says, why is it when we're young, the teachers had said anyone can be president, but the Dems see it as a challenge? IQ's like a game. How low can you go? In theory, anyone can, but not everyone can. So most will never get that close. It's dishonest. Oh, you can do anything. No, you can't. No, you can't. Because even if you put forward all the effort humanly possible for you, you still might not make it. How many college basketball players do you think actually make it to the draft pick? I'll tell you, it's around 1%. And then when they get drafted, how many of them do you think play beyond a year and then get dumped to the minors and never make it? And they're putting all they can into it, most of them. But that's a meritocracy. That's survival of the fittest. And every species on the planet seems to understand that except humans. Monkey says, hard to map out the whole 5K tribes when some come and go immediately or don't have any documentation existing as such. True. And Nature Nerd says, Maya were not peaceful with tens of thousands of human sacrifices causing the flower wars. Yeah, and they all did that. They all did that back in the day. As we jump back into the Post article here, it says, Vice President Kamala Harris is facing allegations of plagiarism after numerous passages from the Democratic presidential nominee's 2009 book or money laundering scheme, Smart on Crime, were discovered to closely resemble or perfectly match wording from other sources. And I'm guessing that she didn't cite those sources in the bibliography then. Harris, then San Francisco's district attorney, wrote the book promoting a reform-minded approach to prosecuting crimes alongside ghostwriter Joan O.C. Hamilton, who told the Post when contacted Monday that she was surprised to learn about alleged copying. I bet. Conservative activist Christopher Rufo published the allegations Monday and credited an investigation by Austrian plagiarism hunter Stefan Weber, so that's a guy who does that for a living, with Rufo posting screenshots on X of 5 examples in which the wording in the book closely resemble other sources. And this is the cover of the book, Smart on Crime. You have to put your picture on it, huh? You have to put your picture on the book. You get oh my God. You couldn't have had like a professional photographer arrange like a desk with handcuffs or something, or a polygraph machine, something that alludes to servicing criminals somehow. No, Smart on Crime. Here's my picture. That's money laundering. 5 people bought that book, and the rest of them were purchased by agencies so that she could get millions of dollars for nothing. And Tuck is here. And All People says Judge Joe Brown exposed Kamala's fake lineage. As I catch up a couple of comments here. Jericho says YouTube or my cell network just totally crashed, kicked out and wouldn't load for 10 minutes. Wow. What am I paying for? What are any of us paying for? Because none of this stuff works as well as they claim. And 5G, give me a break. It works worse now. Plasma says, I still remember Kamala Harris on Montel Williams' arm as one of his hoes. Yup. That's right. Helter says plagiarism is the way of the Democrats. Just ask Joe Biden. And as many of you might recall, Joe Biden has run for president in the past, and he was asked to walk away from his nomination when it was discovered he was plagiarizing his speeches. There was a little bit more integrity in those days. So big surprise. Big surprise, Kamala Harris plagiarized the materials for her book. I guess she figured no one would ever read it because, of course, I swear, all these politicians, it's money laundering. I guarantee it. There's nobody's actually out there buying these books. They're not selling millions of copies. There's no reason that Bill Clinton should have gotten $23 million up front for his memoirs when they weren't even written yet. Give me a break. And she hasn't looked that good since she was 19. Talk about airbrushing. Anyway, big surprise, plagiarism. Gosh, I can't believe it. And Kimberly says her grandfather owned slaves. Correct. That's apparently. The Dragon says, I was raised in a middle-class family. I know. That's not even necessarily true. I mean, come on. Her father was a diplomat, and her mother was actually a prominent scientist. And so what if it was a middle-class family? That's a good thing. If things went smoothly, it took my mother 6 years to save for our first house. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing. Actually, that's pretty good. Most people got to wait longer than that. You're complaining? And Legends is here. Legends has joined us as well. But, she wants your vote, especially if you're black. And I don't understand that. I don't understand why they want the black vote or they feel like they need it so bad. Demographically speaking, in the United States, the population of, quote, black people is less than 13%, according to the Census Bureau. Okay, less than 13%. Guesstimating maybe 65% of those people are old enough to vote. And out of that group, maybe half of them actually will. Why do you need that vote so bad? I don't get it. Fluke Man says, imagine in the 90s you told a teacher you're going to be homeless, drug addict, alcoholic, shoplifter in 2020. Everyone would be seriously worried about your mindset. Back then, they used to warn you that you're going to end up being a garbage truck driver, which actually is not a bad job. You're going to wind up driving a dump truck. Okay, I'll do that. But Kamala has a way to get your vote. And that's by legalizing marijuana. Spectrum News article, Harris to propose legalizing recreational marijuana, part of economic agenda aimed at black men. Because, and that tells you a lot about what they think about these black people that they want their votes from so badly. Oh, you guys just schlep around all day smoking weed, so if I legalize marijuana, you'll be all cool with me now, right? Homie? Yeah. Vice President Kamala Harris is set to unveil an opportunity agenda aimed at black men on Monday that includes legalizing recreational marijuana, a move that would represent a major shift in the federal government's drug policy. The plan, which calls for legalizing cannabis as a way to break down unjust legal barriers that hold black men, also includes creating a national health equity initiative focused on black men and loan assistance for black entrepreneurs. So go ahead and smoke all the weed you want and be too high to drive or work, but no menthol cigarettes. No, that's bad for you. In addition to the cannabis proposal, the plan calls for 1 million fully forgivable loans of up to $20,000 to black entrepreneurs, according to the campaign. And I've been seeing a lot about that. And we've talked about that before. Majority of businesses never make it. Everyone cannot have a business. Okay. It doesn't work. Everyone can't have a store. Everyone can't have a business. Everyone can't have a gas station. Everyone can't have a corner store or a laundromat or a barber shop or a pizza shop or whatever the hell. Okay? You don't all get a business. This is not Oprah. You get a business, you get a business, you get a business. No, it doesn't work in the real world. Most businesses fail. They fail because there's too many of the same business, because you're not established and people don't recognize you for having any quality of service. There's too many of the same services. Your service didn't cut it. You're in the wrong location. There's a ton of reasons, but most businesses fail. You cannot give away $1,020,000 non-refundable loans that don't have to be paid back. You see, it says they're fully forgivable. Only give them to black men only. I said only twice. That's bad syntax. You can't just give them to one group only, and have it be constitutional. Those people will squander that. They won't appreciate it. They'll open a business, and if it fails, who gives a shit? I didn't have to pay that loan back. They gave me the money. Hell, most people will probably fake opening a business and pay themselves the $20,000 and then declare bankruptcy. A lot of people did that with C virus relief during the pandemic back a couple of years ago. And many of those are being investigated now. So sick of this stuff. Nature Nerd says the only thing they learned in English class was not to plagiarize. Monkey says they're either sitting on bookshelves at bookstores or at the doctors' and dentists' offices or right by the checkout lanes. I'm sure a lot of them are in Goodwill. Country says, I wonder if the cigar company got any royalties from Bill Clinton's memoirs. And Tuck says there's different levels of middle class too, low, middle, upper. If she's like a big enough scientist, as I've read, it was upper. All People says Kamala's mom was the daughter of an Indian diplomat and traveled extensively before her teens. Her mother's families, the Goplans, are filthy rich. And House Drubel says West Ireland, Our Liberty has copies of the Obamas and Clinton's memoirs, or library, which means the government here are funding those millionaires. Jericho says, got to watch out for his sister. No kidding. Couple more here real quick. Nature Nerd says marijuana made Washington and Oregon a lot worse. I have friends that got addicted to marijuana and it ruined their life. And Tuck says when they were younger, municipalities in my area would only hire one race for trash collection. It looks a little more diverse now that much of the services are outsourced to private companies. And All People says 9 out of 10 black in the U.S. Okay, post-slavery era households. But I don't know why they want this so much. You can't give away loans that don't have to be paid back. We're already going through this with these people and the student loans. There's no such thing as loan forgiveness when it's government. All right? You're paying for it. Even those people will eventually end up paying for it somehow. Whether it's taxes or free labor in a prison. Drubel wants to know if she'll let all the black men she locked up as district attorney for simple possession. Good question. Legend says they're convinced a majority of their generation is pure liberal and smoke weed, either of which I don't mind. However, the propaganda behind that party is what scares me. Plasma says the high taxation on businesses is insane. Yeah, taxes and regulations and fees and all of that can crush a business too before it even gets off the ground. Having to pay for housing and neighborhood development to check your building out, having to pay for the fire marshal to come and check it out, and having to pay for permits and having to pay to register the name of the business and all of that, all the paperwork. And God forbid there's anything involving food. It'll crush you before you even get started. Before you even get started. And Sven is here. He says he's at the doctor. And Flukeman says, what does America consider to be black or biracial? If I'm not mistaken, half blacks to half anything else, you're classified as black, not bi, or they used to call that being mulatto. So what's the point? At what point do you say you're half? I don't know. I don't know how that works anymore. It used to be a lot more cut and dry. Nature Nerd says getting a loan in the first place is not a good way to start a business. Starting with debt before you've proven you can make a profit is a recipe for disaster. Yeah. And one more here. Raccoon says this morning I took a shortcut through the rich, snooty part of town, and I noticed all the gorgeous homes had Harris signs in the lawn. Looks like blue collar and poor people like me have Trump signs. Interesting observation there. But yeah, that's a race-based payment system. It's unconstitutional, and it will lead to problems over time. But oh goodness, hold on a second. Hi, buddy. Monkey, everyone, just jumped up in my lap. Say hello, monkey. You want to be squirmy instead, is that what it is? All right, monkey. One last look and I'll put you down. I don't know what you're doing. He's being very, very, very... No, don't play with that. He's being a monkey. That's why we call him that. And Semper Fi is here. Glad you could make it. All people says those forgivable loans are a bribe. Well, it's not exactly, because you'll do that for them, but there's no guarantee that they're going to actually vote for you. So not a direct bribe, but yeah, I totally get your point. I get your point. And Baki is here. Says the kitten, and Legend says monkey has grown. Yes, he has. Indeed. And Legends also says the woke propaganda is the worst, since I highly doubt any other country proves that nonsense, especially in war. But they do insist. They do insist. And this is a Rolling Stone article. Barack Obama wants you to step up. And here he is, because he can't shut up either. They can't just retire. They can't just go away. They have to continue to try to be a statesman and a diplomat, and they can't walk away from it. Barack Obama and Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. Here, come on, people, just retire. Just shut up and go away. I'm tired of hearing them. I really am. Barack Obama urges black male voters to step up for Kamala Harris in a rousing speech. It's easy to be a rousing speech when you're pandering to a crowd of bobbleheads. People that they're just going to automatically agree with whatever you say. It says Barack Obama gave an impassioned speech. I can't imagine that, because again, they always used to call him the great orator, and I never liked his delivery. I don't like the way he does his speeches. I don't like the way he addresses crowds. He sounds very arrogant. He sounds like he's lecturing you. It does not sound genuine to me. It doesn't sound impassioned to me. It sounds rehearsed and it sounds snooty. But again, Barack Obama gave an impassioned speech late last night at the University of Pittsburgh in support of Kamala Harris' campaign for president. In the speech, Obama affirmed that the impending election is, quote, going to be tight because there are a lot of Americans who are still struggling out there. Yeah, it's your fault too. However, he added, quote again, it is not just about policies that are on the ballot, it's about values. The former president who endorsed Harris after President Biden dropped out of the race earlier this summer used the speech to denounce Republican candidate Trump as a selfish politician who only cares about his ego and his money and his status. Quite frankly, and that was a quote, his ego, his money, his status. That sounds like every politician to me, including Obama. If you had a family member who acted like Trump, you might still love them, but you'd tell them you got a problem, and you wouldn't put him in charge of anything. And yet when Donald Trump lies or cheats or shows utter disregard for our Constitution, when he calls POWs losers or fellow citizens vermin, people make excuses for it. Kind of like how now you're making excuses for Kamala Harris. Obama used the speech as an opportunity to bluntly tell black males to pick Harris. My understanding, based on reports I'm getting from campaigns and communities, is that we have not yet seen the same kind of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. And he added, the lack of enthusiasm for Harris seemed to be more pronounced with the brothers. Oh, that's a quote. It seemed to be more pronounced with the brothers. I never heard him call black people brothers before. That's a first. Oh my God. Oh my God. Let me catch up a couple of comments here. Country says power is addictive. It can be, but that's why you're supposed to be a good steward of that power. Didn't Spider-Man teach you that? Didn't Stan Lee explain it? With great power comes great responsibility. Jericho says, I can never get over how you say that. Please go away. I know. I'm so sick of them. I don't want to hear them anymore. Retire. Go sit on the beach and get fat, man. I don't care what you think. Flukeman says, how many people in the audience paid to cheer and encourages others to do the same? That's possible. Oh, I'm skipping a couple. Hasdrubal says, whenever Obama went off script or teleprompter, he was a stuttering mess. They all are, because they don't speak from the heart. Because they don't really give me that. Sorry, monkey had my pen. They don't really care about what they're talking about. Someone writes the speech for them, they read it. It's as simple as that. Monkey says, do you sometimes get the mail from the DNC that shows all the Democrat candidates that are up for running in your area? I get mine from Cuyahoga County in Ohio, and I even know Republicans who don't. And Dragon said, I don't get any with a list, no, but I do get a lot of propaganda. Dragon says, Obama talking down to black men. I want to talk to the brothers. Then he proceeds to talk to them like little boys who are being punished for thinking on their own. Indeed. Nature Nerd says Obama broke the Constitution, not Trump. Cruising says, not only did I get a notification, but you had ads on the channel today. Wow, I might make a few pennies. Helter says, basically he's saying their opinion doesn't matter, so vote blue. Exactly. All People says Obama's mother, stepdad, and both of his biological fathers worked for the CIA. His maternal grandparents worked for, I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. And his stepfather left him a third of his fortune, making him the richest president. It says Obama acknowledged that women in our lives have been getting our backs this entire time. When we get in trouble and the system isn't working for us, they're the ones out there marching and protesting. Oh, whatever. On the one hand, you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands the struggles and the pain and the joy that comes from those experiences. And on the other side, you have someone who has consistently shown disregard, not just for the communities, but for you as a person. That's how I feel you treated me when you were president. Disregarded me. Y'all brothers, you need to get your act together and get out there and hook a sister up. Word. Because I'm all black and stuff. That's right. And I'm not going away. I won't retire, I swear. I'm still getting $400,000 for speaking engagements. I got paid damn near $500,000 for this one. Now I'm starting to sound like Bill Clinton. Hey, I'm starting to sound like Bill Clinton. We'll be talking about Bill Clinton today. We'll be talking about Bill Clinton today. Monkey says, have a chance of winning in that country at all. I see a lot more Kamala and Tim Gisler signs in homes that look like single small homes, but very few Trump signs. And I know I probably skipped over a couple of comments because there's a lot of stuff in here. Baki says, as a mixed black man, they are begging and trying to bully black men to go for Harris than that Real Man comedy skit. I know, I saw that and I was like, that's gotta be humor. There's no way. I would have been a lot worse if that was me in there. Oh man. Yeah, I'm gonna vote for Kamala Harris. I'm gonna chew up this here chaw. And then I'm going to lift these two big heavy balls up off this here chair. And I's going to vote for Camilla because I's ain't scared of no women's presidents. All People says U.S. has never had a black president, only biracial, pretending to be. And Monkey says, restatement on the other or continuation on the comment. The Republicans don't have a chance in Cuyahoga County, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, since it's deep blue, bunch of Kamala signs, but I've seen very few Trump signs. Okay, but I saw that and I was like, wait a minute, that's got to be comedy. That's got to be comedy. But anyways, that's Obama. And he wants you to step up. And this is not the first time I've heard that. That's not the first time I've heard that. That if you are a black man, you need to step up and vote for Kamala and support the sister. And unfortunately, there's a lot of men that'll do that. There's a lot of men that'll do that. A lot of black guys are going to be quite frankly, coerced into voting that way. And odds are it's going to be his wife, girlfriend, mother, sister, somebody that's going to pressure him into it. It's going to pressure him into it. And to any black men out there who don't want to vote for Kamala, when you walk in that booth, they don't know what you did. So you can tell them whatever you want. But I highly recommend you stand up for yourself. It may be your last chance. Maybe your last chance before you lose the last of your testosterone and everything shrivels up and falls off. Fox News article. Bill Clinton suggesting Laken Riley would be alive if the border was secure, stunning social media. Okay, and this is the new thing. Let me show you this picture. I love this. Monkey says it's Cuyahoga. Okay, Cuyahoga. Look at Bill's looking pretty bad. He was never a good-looking guy anyway, but he's looking pretty worn out. Too many years around Hillary. But actually, it's the evil showing through because he was involved in some pretty sinister stuff, even as governor. Even when he was governor. But look at the hat. It says Harris Waltz in orange on a camouflage hat because, yo, conservatives, we be down with you, see? We're down with you because, like, camouflage. Oh, we have camouflage on our hats. Conservatives, so like us now. Harris Waltz. Waltz is the man's man. You saw him yesterday trying to load a shotgun. Tell me you haven't seen Elmer Fudd trying to load that shotgun. I showed a clip of it yesterday. Holding the butt in his crotch. Oh, please accidentally pull that trigger, Waltz. Please do that. I want to see you in the fetal position rolling around on the ground crying like a little girl. Please pull that trigger by mistake. Loading the shotgun with it pointing straight out like he's holding his dick. with the breech facing down and trying to put the bullets up into it. Have you never touched a shotgun before, Mr. Soldier? Mr. Mr. Backwoodsman, Mr. Professional Hunter. God, it's embarrassing. I'm all hung up on the hat. I didn't even get to the article. The country says, just like Joe Biden's black comment. It worked. Legend says, I wish Penn and Teller would bring back their show P&T's BS. And Hasdrubal says, anyone heard that they changed a policy to allow U.S. servicemen to assist LEOs in the U.S. up to the use of lethal force? I had not heard that. And Nature says, sin will age you like Bill Clinton and Obama. Yeah, I know. And George Soros, man, he looks like, God, he looks like he was a bag of skin somebody poured Jell-O into. But yeah, that hat just knocks me out. Oh, look at me. I'm wearing a Harris Wolf hat with camouflage. Brian says, did you have the shotgun video on the stream yesterday? Yes, I showed it. I showed a clip of him trying to load that shotgun. It was pathetic. But he says here, former President Bill Clinton suggesting Georgia's nursing student, Laken Riley, who everybody's forgotten about her already, would still be alive if the border had been secured and was seen as a slight against the Biden-Harris administration Monday. Clinton campaigned for Vice President Harris in Georgia Sunday, where he accused former President Trump of purposefully tanking bipartisan border negotiations because he wanted to make it a campaign issue. Clinton brought up Riley's story, saying if her alleged killer, an illegal immigrant, had been properly vetted, she wouldn't have been murdered. Well, on the immigration thing, Kamala's the only candidate who actually endorsed the bill that would hold down immigration any given year to a certain point, and then made sure we gave people a decent place to live, didn't divide people from their children, and we did total vetting before people got in. Now, Trump killed the bill. The bill was being written by senior Republicans in the Senate, and he killed the bill. Why? Clinton said. You had a case in Georgia not very long ago, didn't you? They made an ad about it. Young woman who had been killed by an immigrant. Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened. But if they all properly vetted, that doesn't happen, he said. Well, you know what? You really kind of shot Kamala in the foot with that statement. Because the border wall was under control. The border was under control. Biden, day one in office, signed an executive order pulling all the stops out at the border. Trump didn't do that. Trump didn't throw the gates open. Trump didn't tell the Border Patrol that they couldn't hold people anymore. Trump didn't do that. Biden did that. Biden did that. So, I mean, it's what he's talking about. It's not even true. Wow, his eyes are bloodshot. And kind of yellow. I wonder if he's got something wrong with his liver, actually, looking at the picture. Legend says, talking about Penn and Teller here, I think, that was the show where they would talk about stuff they thought was BS, example, bottled water, end of the world, and alternative medicine, to name a few. I've never seen it. I've never seen that show. But I mean, yeah, that woman would be alive if the people at the border were being properly vetted, but they were being properly vetted all the way up until Biden's first day in office, when he signed the executive order that took the power away from the Border Patrol to manage anything. Now he wants to act like she's the only chance we got. But he said too much. He said too much. And then he brought up Laken Riley, and that opened a huge can of worms because he's been called out on it. Monkey says, yeah, yellow eyes tend to be something with the liver going bad. Yeah, his eyes look kind of yellow in that picture. JJ says, this is why they're trying to distance Harris from Biden, hoping we all forget that she was the border czar. Yeah, that's correct. She was supposed to be in charge of that. When it started getting out of control and they started giving Biden a hard time, that we went from like 800 encounters a day to 8,000 practically overnight. Nature Nerd says the wall material was already sitting on the border ready to be set up when Biden canceled it. The Mexicans stole the barbed wire on the border during Biden's administration. And a lot of that other material was sold literally for pennies on the dollar just to get rid of it because it was sitting in storage. And now they got to buy it all again. And you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it. Yeehaw. Start writing those checks. Well, they'll just take the money from you. You don't have to write any checks. They'll just take it from you. They'll take it out of your paycheck. They'll take it out of your bank account. They'll raise taxes on like goods and services and whatever the hell they can do. They'll find a way to get your money. Baki says, I heard the Clintons have deleted more people than the Joker, just quietly. Yeah. As the old joke goes, nobody has 40 friends who committed suicide. Oh, I said the S word. I hope I don't get in trouble again. Oh, no. Maybe I said it too fast for the algorithm to pick up. But since we talked about Bill, we may as well talk about his lovely wife, Hillary Clinton. Here she is in a muumuu. At least she doesn't have a neck brace on with a really, really big scarf to cover it up. Who remembers when she was wearing the neck brace and she was trying to cover it with like this super long Doctor Who looking scarf that was wrapped around it like 12 times. The muumuu is more fitting. I think that works. I see muumuu when I look at Hillary. I like that. Anyways, is this Fox News? Yeah, Fox News article. Hillary Clinton produced feminist musical ending its Broadway run due to money issues. I can't imagine how. How can her feminist Broadway production not be earning money hand over fist? Come on now. Brian says, I wouldn't mind paying taxes so much if it went to good causes. I know, and you have no say whatsoever in how the money's spent, and that's really part of the problem. And remember, the United States, they tell us anyways that the whole Revolutionary War was because of taxation without representation. Where's my representation for how the tax money that is taken from me is spent, and the tax money that's taken from everything that I do, tax money that's taken at the gas pump, tax money that's taken when I buy something at the grocery store, and so on. Tax money that is paid on top of my phone bill, that is paid on top of all my utilities. All that tax money. I have no say in it whatsoever. None. Is that not taxation without representation? Oh, but your elected official is your representation, is what the government tells you. We had that same deal when England was in charge of America. Nature Nerd says Trump is healthier than these other former presidents because he doesn't drink. It makes a big difference. Alcohol is not good for your body. Alcohol is poison. When you're drunk, you're basically poisoning your body. But yeah, there you go. Hillary Clinton suffs, and I guess that's the name of it, S-U-F-F-S, suffs, a feminist musical produced by former First Lady and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, is ending its Broadway run due to money issues, according to the New York Times. I'm surprised that shit could get on Broadway. The decision was announced, oh, you know what? This ain't the Broadway that we remember if we were younger, with big hits in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even the 80s. Broadway's not the same anymore, guys. It's dead. The decision was announced Friday night by the producers of the musical, which is about the women's suffrage movement. So God knows people were clamoring at the doors to see that. According to Securities and Exchange Commission filings reviewed by the Times, SUFS was capitalized to gross $19 million, but it has not recouped that amount. For the week that ended on October 6th, the musical only earned $679,589, which is not typically enough money to sustain a Broadway show with a large cast. The show debuted in April, but struggled to fill all of its seats just 2 weeks after the official performance. Data from the week of May 5th showed the Clinton-produced play only reached 81% capacity across 8 performances that week. Competing with Romeo and Juliet, Sweeney Todd, and Moulin Rouge, the musical SUFS placed in the bottom 23% of all 35 shows on Broadway for the week of May 5th. And I'll tell you right now, any musical buffs out there, Romeo and Juliet, Sweeney Todd, and Moulin Rouge are always on Broadway. Those are staples. It's not like a big thing. It's always there. It's one of those plays that's always done. Okay? So in the beginning, for like the first week, 8 performances. First week, they were at 81 capacity, and then it dropped off. They were slated to earn $19 million, but only pulled in under $700,000. And then they said, that's enough. We got to shut it down. I'm surprised they let it go that long. Unless she was just dumping money in it to keep it going. Fluke Man says, did Biden tell Texas governor to open the border, or he'll send in border guards to do it and arrest other border guards keeping it closed? But the entire border agency warned Biden not to piss them off. That sounds familiar, actually, Fluke Man. That sounds about right, or something like it. Kimberly says you should check your local school tax appropriation. You would be surprised how much goes to teaching migrants to speak English. Don't even get me going on that, or my wife especially. Our property taxes, something like 83% of our property taxes is school tax. And it was about as bad as that in Illinois, too. And what are we paying these people for? We don't even have a kid in public school. Paying them to do what? Be closed half the year? Distance learning? For a bunch of dimwit kids who can't count money? Can't read a paragraph, let alone understand it? Can't write their name so that it's legible? Wow. Ugh. Big can of worms for me, guys. Jericho says, money issues? I thought you were okay. Yeah. Nature Nerd says, SUFS sounds like the worst name ever for a Broadway. Sounds like suffocating. All People says, Sweeney Todd and Moulin Rouge are creepy and evil. Yeah, but they're always out there, though. They're always out there. There's certain ones that are always around, like The King and I, or Fiddler on the Roof. A funny thing happened on the way to the Forum. There's cycles for certain plays or musicals. Those were musicals that are just really well done. Fiddler on the Roof, it's a good musical. I've seen it on stage. You know what I mean? Even Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat I've seen on stage, and that was pretty good. Back in the old days when I still had money before my exes destroyed my life. Wow. The musical was also produced by Malala Yousafzai. God, did I pronounce that right? Yousafzai. Malala Yousafzai. Forget it. In addition to the former First Lady, in July, a group of radical protesters interrupted a SUFS performance and called the musical a portrayal of the next generation of feminists. We don't need any more feminism, okay? Thank you. We've reached about our capacity for tolerating feminism, people. Please. It's proven to be destructive. I'll pull up an image of Malala so that you can see who she is, since I already butchered her name, I'm sure. This is Malala. She looks, she's Pakistani. She's a Pakistani activist. Go to Pakistan and go to Pakistan and protest over there, okay? JJ says if the kids are unable to read, write, or do simple math, it seems like a failure on the part of the school. Yeah, but why should I have to pay for it? It's also a failure on the parents because they dump them into the school and expect the system to teach them anything without following it up. Nature Nerd says you can usher for Broadway and see plays for free. That's why I do. Okay. Drupal says my 11-year-old daughter helped me change a headlight bulb on my car today, and she paid for some supplies at the hardware shop, including speaking with the shop manager and counting out the correct cash. And that's good. That's what they should be able to do that, and they should learn how to do that sort of thing. That's hands-on. And Preparedness HQ is here, as well as Eric, who says, speaking of feminism, did you know the United States legalized black men to vote before women as a whole? Yes, that sounds correct. Drupal says kids need to be taught life skills, and all people likes 42nd Street. Baki says there are kids who don't know proper English but know all the internet acronyms. They literally speak internet. And Drupal says if she is Pakistani girl that was shot in the face for going to school in Pakistan. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if she is. I'm not sure if she is. But she's the one that won the Nobel Peace Prize. I know that. It looks like she's got a little bit of a beard coming in right there. All that makeup ain't hiding it. But anyway, I know I'm awful. I'm awful. I'm not sure that could be, but I don't know if she's the one that was shot. But again, go there and do it. She won't protest in Pakistan because it's not a good idea. All People says, how much you want to bet that the producer of Hillary's crap play is one of the migrants the Democrats brought in as a new voter? Maybe they're the ones in the play. Nobody wants to see a musical about the women's suffrage movement. And the women's suffrage movement, the whole concept is filled with lies and deception anyway. If you really want to see a great example of what the women's suffrage movement actually looked like, okay, watch the original Upstairs, Downstairs, the 70s Upstairs, Downstairs from, what was it, Masterpiece Theater from BBC? And they do a great example of demonstrating what that actually looked like. Hordes of women who were all upper class, wealthy women, okay? Women who didn't work, women were working in factories and had jobs, not these women, who went around in large groups, breaking front windows, pelting police with rocks and bricks, setting fires to cars, setting fires to storefronts, and they'd get arrested, and then they'd go on hunger strikes. This is historically accurate, and it's well depicted again in Upstairs, Downstairs. Setting fires, getting arrested, refusing to eat, and then getting an easy pass from the judge who lets them go home because they refused to eat, and he felt sorry for them because they were women. And they were doing that on purpose, leaning on their femininity when it was convenient to do so. Frank Baum, the writer of the original Wizard of Oz series, touched on that as well. I think it's the third book in the original Baum series. He wrote something like 43 Wizard of Oz novels, where the feminists took over Oz and they came to the gates and the guard wouldn't open the door and they all started crying, "Oh, please, we're just women." And he opens the door anyway because he was like, "Oh, okay, they're acting harmless enough." And then they stabbed him to death with hat pins when he got the door open, and then murdered all the cabinet members, and then started crying again. bunch of frauds. Flukeman says feminists said Ghostbusters 2016, Milan 2020, Batwoman TV show, and a few others said these shows aren't for men. We listened, save our money instead, and then cried we didn't watch their movies. Exactly. Hasdrubal says she was shot by the Taliban and the Democrats are ready to exploit it. Okay, she is the one then. JJ says she was the one. Okay, confirming it that she is the one that was shot. And Brian made a donation to the channel. Much appreciated, Brian. Always helpful. Always helpful. I don't have any cats in the room, though. They all abandoned me. Hasdrubal says, have to collect my 11-year-old from Taekwondo. Thanks. Peace out. Okay. Glad you were able to join us today. And Nature Nerd says, wait, women don't have peaceful protests? No. And All People says, upstairs, downstairs versus Downton Abbey. Upstairs, downstairs was better. Was a lot better. The original version, not the remake, but the original 70s upstairs, downstairs touches on a lot of things like the socialism, the feminist movement, things like that, and shows you a much more realistic vision of what that looked like in that time period versus what people today think happened. But anyway, with that, we are at the top of the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping things up. I'll throw that up there from All People if you want to read it. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Coffee Talk and on Prepper University. On YouTube, you can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. Special thanks to Brian for making a donation to the channel today. Need all the help I can get. And thank you everyone else who was able to join us today. Hope you got something out of the conversation.